We're pleased to have Lars Lih, the author of Lenin Rediscovered.
Hold it up.
It is quite heavy. It is quite heavy. It's quite a strain. Lenin Rediscovered, an excellent book. We have copies of this available there, and the company is going to expand on some of the themes that he touches on in this book. Yes,
that's it. Okay. Okay. Well, picture the scene. It's Lenin's 50th birthday in April 1920. The Bolsheviks have been fighting in the Civil War for 3 years. Although they're in a desperate situation in spring 1920, they can sort of feel that they can see victory is pretty much assured, and they're celebrating their great hero and their great leader Lenin. And he comes out on the stage, obviously rather reluctant. And what does he do? But he sort of says, "You know, I'd like to read a long quotation by Kautsky, and which he did from a 1902 work, The Slavs and Revolution." And you see, it's about a page and a half. He also stuck it into left-wing communism, so you can get the idea. It's from here to here. It's a long quotation to read, and he read it out with the following words. "I'd now like to say a few words about the present position of the Bolshevik Party. I was led to these thoughts by a passage of a certain writer written by him 18 years ago in 1902. This writer is Kautsky, from whom at present we have had to break away and fight in exceptionally sharp form," which is putting it politely, "but who earlier was one of the Vojdi, the leaders of the proletarian party in the fight against German opportunism, and with whom we once collaborated. There were no Bolsheviks back then, 1902. I mean, the Bolshevik wasn't invented yet. But all future Bolsheviks collaborating with him valued him highly." So, and then he goes on to sort of criticize the Bolsheviks in front of him by saying, "You're getting above yourself. Party, you're getting too conceited," and so forth. So, on this great occasion, he tells the audience, the person whom we've been fighting and whom you've all looked down upon is really was a great guy once, and so I'm going to read this quotation, which obviously still thrills me, and I'm going to berate you. And so that for me is sort of an emblem. I wonder how shocked some of these people were, and when again, a couple months later, the communist Second Congress of the Communist International met, and he did the same thing when he passed out this book to them, Left-Wing Communism, which again had the same long quote and an appreciation of Kautsky, saying, when Kautsky was a Marxist, how well he wrote. What a good writer Kautsky was when he was a Marxist. So I imagine a lot of the people in both audiences, the party audience in his birthday and the international audience in 1920, were rather surprised to hear this, that Lenin, whom, if you picked up anything by Lenin from 1914 on, you would have seen tremendous polemics and just he couldn't think of enough bad names for Kautsky, still had a very soft spot in his heart for him, and not only in his heart but in his thinking. So, and I imagine people are still surprised today, many people, especially on the left, because, well, we've all grown up with the idea of the renegade Kautsky. In fact, I gather many people think that's his first name, because he never called anything else. And we all know sort of a long list of things to say about him. He was a renegade. He was a passive and mechanical determinist. He was passive. He was not very revolutionary. He was determinist. He was Darwinist. He was this. He was that. The other. And so, what happened in 1914, we are told, and led to believe, is that Lenin finally saw through Kautsky, not only the person, which clearly he did, but what Kautsky stood for, and that he settled accounts with Kautskyism root and branch. That there was a massive rethinking of Marxism that involved this, and that the Second International, Kautsky is involved with the Second International, and the Second International is bad. And so that's how we all sort of start with the idea of the Kautsky-Lenin relationship. And of course, there are people on the other side of the political spectrum who say they have the same idea of Kautsky versus Lenin, except they like Kautsky. I think lately there's been sort of a Kautsky revival going on. This revolutionary strategy is one example of it. There's a lot of articles I could cite, and there's another huge book in the historical materialism series that just came out called Witness to Permanent Revolution. It's mainly about permanent revolution, but it has several hundred pages of Kautsky documents from the 1904-6 period, which I'll quote from a little later on. And so I'm proud to be part of this little revival, and I also would like, I think I can describe myself as probably the most extreme member of this, because I think I've gone farther than anybody else in saying that Lenin's view of Kautsky was highly positive, never changed, and not only positive, but continued to play an important role at all points in his career, including the last decade. So you're hearing the sort of the person on the sort of far edge of this revival, and the way I'd sum up what my little epigram for this is that after 1914, Lenin hated Kautsky because he loved Kautsky's books, and I'll try to get this across. And one reason why I sort of am confident about what I'm saying about this is that, well, after I wrote that book, the reviews by some people on the left were complimentary, but a couple of them said a weak point is the fact that Lih thinks that the Lenin-Kautsky relationship is too close, and Lenin himself thought so back then, but he didn't realize the real issues involved at that time. He didn't realize that he actually disagreed with Kautsky, and but he did realize this in 1914 when the scales fell from his eyes, etc. So, well, that was a valid criticism in that I didn't talk about the later period, so I thought, well, okay, let me check this out. So I composed what I call the Kautsky as Marxist database, which is a rather odd little database. I went through and took all the quotations I could find from, all the references I could find from Lenin after 1914 about Kautsky writings up to 1909, which is when Road to Power came out, and which is the cutoff point. Lenin says so. He says that's his last work. After that, he's not good. He didn't become a full trader until 1914, but after 1909, he's not so good. So the first surprise is that there's a lot of it. Do I have it here? Here it is. It's all these quotations and stuff. And the second is the picture that came up, that rose up out of this, which was almost entirely positive, and also had a wide range of issues and a lot of specific references to books and the writings and so forth. And so I'm still sort of looking out all the details and trying to get all the facts that came up out of that. But I'm going to make sort of an immodest claim here. I'm not giving you Lih's view of the Lenin-Kautsky relationship. I'm giving you Lenin's view of the Lenin-Kautsky relationship. He may be wrong, Lenin. People think that's certainly a possibility. But this is what he thought with Lenin. And I have a summary here that I wrote out of that guide. This is a little summary. This is my summary, but it's supposed to be a paraphrase of what Lenin says about Kautsky after 1914, okay? This is the picture you will get out of Kautsky if you were listening to Lenin. Karl Kautsky was an outstanding Marxist who was the most authoritative theoretician of the Second International and teacher to a generation of Marxists. His popularization of Das Kapital back in the 1880s has canonic status. Or was it 1890s? Anyway, he was one of the first to refute opportunism in detail, although he hesitated personally somewhat before launching his attack, and continued to fight energetically against it, asserting even that a split would be necessary if opportunism ever became the official tendency of the German party. Marxists of Lenin's generation learned a dialectical approach to tactics from him. Only vis-a-vis the state do we observe a tendency to restrict himself to general truths and evade a concrete discussion? Kautsky was also a reliable guide to the revolution